All right, now we can get underway. Thank you for your patience, everyone. All right. Well, we are officially going here this lovely May morning. I am Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network, and also the 2023 koha-US president. And I'm going to go around the room and have people do quick introductions. So Fred, you're first on my screen.
Fred King, MedStar Washington Hospital Center in DC. I'm an unsupported user, and I am probably going to do yet another presentation on on being an unsupported user, or at least try to submit a proposal for it.
All right, Bob.
Bob Bennhoff, Aspen Cat Services Manager. That is a consortia located in Colorado. I'm also the Vice President of koha-US.
Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda.
Just for that, no. Rhonda Kuiper, I'm Technical Services and Collection Development Manager at Round Rock Public Library in Texas, and past president, and I lead the acquisitions SIG. So if you have questions about acquisitions, join us every third Tuesday to learn more.
All right, Georgette.
Georgette Rogers, Liberty Lake Library, part of the CIN consortia, and I am the treasurer for the koha group.
Barbara.
I'm Barbara Johnson, Technical Services Manager at Bedford Public Library in Texas and past president of koha-US.
Great. George.
I'm George Williams, and I am currently muted. I am the next search catalog coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
Jason.
I'm Jason Rubb. I am the Seek and Find coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System.
Michelle.
I'm Michelle Spinney from the CLAMS Library Network, and we just joined koha February 27th. So we're new to koha and Aspen. So just trying to join as many meetings as possible to get to know everyone. Thank you.
Welcome. Lauren.
Just in time. I work with a international consortium, Teamwork Library Consortium, all over the world doing a little bit of everything. I just took on the responsibility of chairing the koha-US circulation meeting that's happening tomorrow. Please come, because I know little to nothing again about circulation. So I'm keeping this meeting alive so that I can learn about circulation. So I need everyone to come and teach me.
Well done, and thank you for sticking your neck out there. Rebecca.
I'm just praying nobody chops it off.
I'm Rebecca Coert. I am a koha person at Arlington Public Library in Virginia.
And last but not least, Jennifer.
I am Jennifer with the Corona Public Library, and I am the koha-US secretary.
All right. All right, we're gonna get ourselves underway here. Let's see here, checking. Jennifer,
Has anyone put a link to the agenda in the...
I was just going to ask Jennifer to put the link on. So she'll get that out there. Thank you, Jennifer. And all right, so we're going to open up with announcements. Does anybody have any announcements before we get into our agenda?
I think it's worth pointing out that in the new edition of Library Journal, there is a really great book review on page 75 for a book called Whalefall by Daniel Kraus. I just wanted to mention that.
All right. Well, thank you.
There's the centerfold on page 28 isn't bad either. It mentions Koha 15 times.
Ooh. All right. Anyone else? All right, so on to new business. First thing, Lauren had already hinted at this. Circulation SIG is going to be underway soon. And Lauren, can you tell us a little bit more? Because you're not the only host of this SIG.
John is working with me to co-chair this. If no one brings anything, we're going to talk about how his consortium has been using patron templates and permissions, and how all that ties in together. We may do a shout out for Bywater's new video on what's coming in 2211 concerning that as well. So I'm not sure if his consortium has moved up. Mine is not, so I'm still waiting anxiously to hear how is everyone handling 2211. What's coming? So that's what we will be talking about.
Great. All right, and you are meeting, remind us again, it is
The second Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard.
so tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Fantastic. And that's 11 a.m. Pacific Central. You said Central?
Eastern.
Eastern. Okay, 11 Eastern. All right.
It's the same time as the cataloging group. Just a week later. That 11 time slot is like the time for the majority of koha-US meetings. So now you just keep the same time, just rotate the day.
All right. Well, you did take a poll, so it appears to have been a popular time. So,
That one won.
all right. Well,
Hands down.
speaking of meetings, the Education Committee is going to get back underway. I am stepping in as chair for the Education Committee. We have several topics that we're going to be talking about now. This month's meeting is going to be held on its regular time on next Wednesday. And I had that information up. It is next Wednesday at, I want to say, no, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to look it up. I don't have these things memorized.
It's the same time as this meeting, if that helps, Christopher.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, I do know it's before our consortium meeting, which means nothing to anybody else. But yeah, so it is on the calendar, 10:30 a.m. And I think that's, yeah, Central Time. So 10:30 Central. So yeah, we have a lot of things on the agenda. We're going to adjust our focus a little bit. Plus, we're also going to send out a poll after that meeting for new meeting time, just to make sure that that is the best time for everybody to meet. We've got a lot of people in the message group, but we don't have a lot of those people coming to the meeting. And so I am going to put out a poll to see if there's a better time so that we can get more of interested parties involved and attending. So yeah, please come to the meeting if you're interested in the Education Committee. The Education Committee, I feel like is, you know, it is one of the key driving forces. Our development is one of those key driving forces behind koha-US. Education goes along with that, because we are driving education, we are driving development through koha-US. And so the education committee is going to help steer some things. We're going to look at some of our focuses and see if we can't make some movements forward in what we're doing and be a little bit more active in koha overall. So please come to that meeting if you're interested in being involved in any way. That's all I have to say about that. So there. The next thing on my agenda is the I lost my agenda just a second here. There it is koha-US Slack workspace. So I had put out some ticklers about this in Slack, and also in a list talking about the koha-US Slack space. We have a Slack workspace, just like Bywater has one for their partners. The koha-US Slack workspace does not get a lot of use lately, as of late. Last year we had a lot of use out of it, but this year it seems like it's just kind of off people's grids. I see a lot more activity going on in the Bywater partners workspace. I wanted to open this up for discussion because I'm wondering if we need to repurpose this, or or kind of change gears. I was kind of thinking, you know, I want this. I want to have a space where we can all come together and talk, you know, outside of email listservs. You know, if there's something that you want, you know, if you want to see if somebody is available right away for discussion, you know, Slack is pretty good for that. I am not, you know, I've used IRC, but IRC is just kind of hit and miss. You can't, it's not as user friendly as Slack has been for me. I don't know about any of you. I like Slack. I like being able to use it, but I do want to have it a little bit more open to people in general, rather than just specifically Bywater partners, or just specifically koha-US members. And so my idea was to, you know, have something that is more koha community based. It was brought to my attention that there is a koha community workspace out there, but it is largely unused. But I did find out that Robin is actually the one that owns that workspace. And so
Robin, as in Robin Hastings?
Yes.
Oh,
so
does she know that?
Yes, she's the one that told me that. So Robin owns that. So I you know, I was thinking of reworking the koha-US workspace for something like this, but since there is one that already exists, I'm kind of feeling like we need, our workspace really isn't accomplishing anything. I think it's just kind of dead space. I think that we should just terminate it, because I don't want to have a ton of workspaces out there that people aren't hanging out in. I would rather breathe some life into the koha community workspace, and if Robin is willing, let koha-US manage that. But I want to have, I was hoping she'd be here, but I want to have that conversation with her, but I also want to have that conversation with all of you, and to see what your thoughts are on that, because again, I don't want too many competing things, and within, you know, within those workspaces, we can create channels of specific topics, different areas, and we could have a koha-US channel in there if we wanted. But really, you know, I just want to foster communication within the community altogether. And so I want to see what you folks think of that if we went that direction.
Well, I can tell you how we ended up with a koha-US specific Slack workspace is when I was the president of koha-US in 2019, we joined TechSoup, and we got all of the TechSoup stuff squared away, and we got all of our 501(c) documentation taken care of with them. And one of the offers that was made by TechSoup was, hey, since you're a 501(c), you're eligible for a fully funded professional plan at Slack. Do you want that? And I just said yes. And the fully funded Slack for nonprofits, one of the drawbacks of it is it has a limit of 250 members. After 250 members, you can get a discount price on their normal rate, which is $8 per member per month. So it's not feasible for us to continue to open it up to the whole community at that price. But it is not difficult if we wanted to just continue using that space and open it up to the entire community. It's not that difficult to say, take us off of the professional version and put us onto the free unpaid version. We would lose a few features of the professional plan, but they're features that we're not using anyway, because right now, really, it's only been an avenue of communication for the people that are on the koha-US board or who have been on the koha-US board at some point or another. So we're really not using it to its full potential. And now that we know that Robin owns, is the one that created Koha Community or community.koha or whatever it is, I can't imagine that she wants to hold on to that and not open it up to anybody who wants it. Robin is at a conference in Colorado this week, so that's why she's not here.
Any other comments or thoughts or suggestions?
I've shared some of mine with you, Christopher, but I think that if we're going to do it, I think using Koha Community as the main one makes sense, and dissolving the koha-US one makes sense. I know that there is a Koha, not Koha-Community, just Koha Slack channel out there, and I think the Swedish users group has that, and I know that there's Koha conversations that go on in there. So I don't know if there's going to be any sort of conflict there. And I know that the community at large, at least the developers, aren't totally cool with using a paid product to develop an open source product, so you may get pushback. But I think if you sell it as a place for people to get together and talk, not necessarily just, not for the development portion, they can still use IRC for that. But I think that it's a great idea because I think that all the support companies out there have their own Slacks, and people are getting left out of conversations. And I think if we have a central place that everybody can get together, we can still have those siloed Slacks around, but like a main chat channel would be huge for people like us who don't hang out in IRC all the time. I think there's a loud minority in the IRC that would be against it. That's my 2 cents.
And nobody's forcing them to join it. But yeah, I think it's important that we have something that's user friendly. I don't think, IRC's okay, but it feels a little technical, a little bit more complicated than Slack does. Slack is more user friendly, in my opinion. I like being able to have it on in the background and things pop up, and IRC, I guess you can find, if you can find a good app to handle IRC, you might be able to find that, but I just like the feel of Slack. And yeah, it is a paid product, but they also, run it you can do a free version like what we're looking at and do what you want. You know, we can't be completely open source. You know, we want to push open source, but we can't be completely open source. I mean, we're doing a lot of Google stuff. I haven't heard pushback on that. So, you know, it's, you know, you use what works, you use what's available. And, you know, if we can use Slack, whether we're paying a little bit or nothing, so be it. You know, let's use what's available out there. And I don't want to get my nose up about, you know, this product is better because it's free or it's open source or you know, we need to use what works. And Slack has been popular and works well. And so that's my 2 cents.
The other thing is you may like it, even if you get the conversation rolling in the community, you may find that maybe someone out there is already working on this, because I know that they looked at an open source version of Slack in the past that could interface with IRC. So like it would bring that IRC channel into the conversation as well. So if you, I don't think we should do this in the darkness, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if you're gonna snatch up that Koha community Slack channel, I think you should put it out to the community and say, here's what we're planning. Is that cool with y'all? Before we just go and do it. But I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I lived through the Americans are bad era of Koha when the trademark tried to get snatched up. So I don't want to foster any bad blood.
That's what I was going to say as well. I think rather than just immediately abandoning and getting rid of koha-US Slack, put it out there that we want to start using Koha or community.koha Slack, whatever it is that Robin has. And if there's a huge pushback against it, then say, all right, we won't call it Koha community, we'll just call it koha-US, and it'll be open to anybody. And that way we won't get any pushback from the community about saying we're stealing the name of the community, even though some like 10 people in the community hate the idea.
You know, and I don't see it as stealing. I mean,
but I don't see it as stealing either, but there's some people that might.
Robin started it, and it is koha-community is the workspace. And, you know, if it's truly a community thing, it means that no one person has ownership of it. You know, koha-US just wants to help facilitate it. So, you know, I don't, you know, if people are going to get their feathers ruffled because of something, they're going to get their feathers ruffled because of something. We can't please everybody in the community, but our goal is to, you know, open things up within the community so that we can have discussions and pull more people in to those discussions and get more people involved in, you know. So yeah, I think, you know, maybe some developers might, you know, be ticked off about it. I don't know. But yeah, I will have that conversation. I will put that conversation out there. What I'll do is I'll throw it out into the listserv, the Koha community listserv. And
I'm just kind of thinking back to that time when Koha NA became koha-US because one person complained that we weren't allowed to speak for all of North America. So Koha NA bad, koha-US, that's okay because they weren't in the US.
Yeah. And, you know, we have not, you know, although we limit our, you know, conferences to the US region, we have not limited anything else to the US. So, you know, yeah, people get upset about things.
Well, I'd be willing to go to Saskatoon for a conference.
Yeah, if they put in a proposal, I mean, we were always open to that. We just told them, hey, you know, most people aren't going to vote for that because they can't travel there. But yeah.
I'd go to Belize.
I think I'm still waiting for us to have a COA conference in Hawaii. So
I talked to some people from Alaska earlier this week that were interested in Koha. So maybe we can go to Anchorage like in December.
Yeah, that sounds good. There's also a COA installation in Nunavut.
Yeah, I know. That would be so cool.
In many ways. Oh, and I put the, I can get to the IRC COA channel from Firefox. I put the address in. It's in Firefox. It looks kind of like chat does in Zoom. Just not quite as well. It's in Courier Tam, so.
Well, I think part of the problem with IRC is everybody's already kind of migrated to Slack, their own little Slack holes, and it's been diluted already. So I think the goal here would be to bring everybody back together, like have a central place that people go. And I think that's something that's missing and would be a great boon to the community if people use it.
Yeah, I agree too. Jason mentioned the open source Slack alternative. It's called Rocket Chat. And the big difference between Slack and Rocket Chat is that we could conceivably do Rocket Chat. It is very similar to Slack, but as an open source product, we would need to put it on a server and host it. That's the big drawback, is somebody would need to take responsibility for setting it up, for setting up a server somewhere virtual or real, putting it out there on the internet and maintaining it over time. So that I think is the biggest drawback of Rocket.
You say that's a drawback, but to some people that's not a drawback, because then all the data is on a secure server, not on Slack servers. And I think people might like that more. And I think you could possibly get buy-in from one of the support companies to host that if we like help sponsor it or help administer it, that sort of thing.
Right. But I'm certainly not going to offer to host a server here. And that's what I think for us in this group, that's a horrible idea. Nobody wants to do that, except maybe Fred.
Actually, I was just thinking of ways that it could be done.
But I don't think anybody here really wants to pay for another server. But if somebody out there does want to do that, if this conversation starts that conversation, then that's cool with me too. I think the last time I remember being in a discussion on the IRC about Rocket Chat, the conversation really was, well, why do we need that? We've already got IRC. But honestly, the last time I went to the IRC, there's nobody there anymore really, except for a handful of people that are there all the time and never log out, and you don't really even know if they're there or not.
Right.
The number of messages in the IRC has really, really fallen. And the amount of activity, what used to be the monthly Koha meetings are now really irregular. And when they do have them, it used to be when you would go to an IRC meeting, a monthly meeting, there'd be like 5 people there. Now it's like quarterly and there's 3 people there. It's just, there's just not a lot of activity going on in the IRC.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of who signed on to the IRC. There are a lot of people, just not many people contributing. Maybe half a dozen. I
Well,
think
this
they're
gives
having a
me
meeting
some
today.
direction as to how we should proceed. So I appreciate everyone's input. Does anybody have anything else to add before we move on? Right.
I will, I'm
go ahead.
digging it up now. I will put a link to there's all of the Koha IRC chat is indexed, and I'll put a link to that index So you can see all the chat history from the IRC. So you can, if you want to take, if anybody wants to see what conversations have been taking place, I'll put a link in there for people to find that.
Thanks, George. So before we open up the floor for general discussion, I just wanted to mention one thing that I didn't mention in the announcements is that we have updated the conference website. The graphic in the background is our theme, Explore the Possibilities. That conference again is September 20th through the 23rd in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We're hoping to see a lot of people there and hopefully some new faces. And Bob just opened up the call for presentations. So if you have some great ideas, something to help us explore the possibilities, please submit a proposal for a presentation. We have some ideas in the form to help guide you if you do not know what you would want to necessarily share. We try to steer away from migration stories, try to help steer people towards, what our theme is, what has Koha inspired you in, where has it taken you and where do you see it going? Those are the, that's the direction that we are going with this year's conference. So check out the website if you haven't already. There's a lot of information on the venue and Portsmouth. The hosts just knocked themselves out in providing us information, a lot of travel information. So start booking as soon as you can. And we'd like to see as many people as possible participate in those presentations. Let's nudge Bywater out a little bit, make them work to get a spot for a presentation. So yeah, please join us. Looking forward to that.
I did put the proposal form in the chat. So thus far, which is not a surprise, we don't have any yet. People weren't waiting to ready with their presentation quite yet, but hopefully we'll get some very soon.
And that the presentation proposals are open until June 14th. Is that right? All right.
That is correct.
So you got a little bit of time. All right. So with that said, we're going to open up the floor to general discussion. Anybody have anything exciting going on or any thing with Koha that you want to bring up, talk about? If not, I have plenty of things to throw at people.
Well, Lauren, I know we discussed the cataloging, but you remember, has anyone brought up the problem with Elasticsearch in the general meeting?
Elasticsearch 8. I put in I put the bug number. The Elasticsearch, I think 6 is what most people are on, and it will become not supported by the Elasticsearch community. Our consortium won't move to Elasticsearch until Koha works its way to like the most current Elasticsearch. And I understand why add something that's going to be obsolete and no longer supported in 6 months. So this is the bug that they're working on. Does anyone else know, like, are you on more recent versions of Elasticsearch?
Yeah, I'm using 2011 with Elasticsearch 6, but there's also the problem that it might not be open source for much longer. Which,
really?
Yes.
Well, that sucks.
Yes.
It's still going to be free, just not open source.
That might mean forking it.
Yep, I could see that happening.
I'm just looking at the bug Lauren posted. I don't think it's the one I saw where they someone mentions that it may not be open source. It's very murky. I think was the term he used.
Yeah, so we're in 6 point something in I'm surprised they're not even in 7 yet.
So
They
I
do
also
mention-
posted the bug for Elasticsearch 7.
They do mention OpenSearch, which is already like a forked version of Elasticsearch. And I think that's what they're looking at now, maybe.
Maybe that's why there's a hold off.
Does anyone know that OpenSearch? Yeah, I really like Elasticsearch. It's made putting in it's made Koha it's made making Koha do things it wasn't intended to do, which seems to be my specialty. Much easier.
I think the big thing is going to be, you know, whether or not we have people in the community that we are familiar with and can communicate with that are involved in the open source in Elasticsearch that would go over and continue into that arena, because I mean, if you don't have people that are building on it and people that are involved in the areas where we need people involved in, then it might cause a stall. I don't know. But yeah, version 6 is going to die out in 6 months, huh?
I don't remember the timeline, but it will no longer be supported. You can still use it,
Right.
just at your own risk.
Right. You know, you don't want to stay in stuff that isn't being supported any longer, because there are always things that need to be fixed up and tightened up. Interesting. What else? Let's see here.
Okay.
I was just going to say that I'm going to put another bug link in here. That is another Elasticsearch bug. That the reason we haven't upgraded to 7 is because 7 also removes features that Koha is relying on currently.
It removes features.
It's where that issue with specifying types and mapping is depreciated in version 7 of Elasticsearch. That's why we haven't upgraded to. That's why the community hasn't upgraded to version 7, is because version 7 is causing problems in Koha as well.
So Koha is depending on some depreciated features. Wow.
That's what it looks like.
That's odd that they would do that.
Yeah, okay. And I need to search for the bug, but I put in the upvoted one where creating matching rules for importing doesn't work. And a couple of people said they can't replicate it. I just spun up 2011 tests and I still can't. So I'm gonna have to follow up on that at some point.
If you find that bug, let me know, because I've been working with matching rules as we add authority control. And so I've been figuring out a few issues with that myself.
Yeah.
I can specify there that the issue that we're having in our authority control project is that not all of when we update authorities, Library of Congress authority record control. Well, one of the issues with koha is that the koha, the authority control number that's in an authority control record is in the 001, but when you import an authority into koha, it overwrites the 001 with the koha ID number. So that's okay because that the Library of Congress number, all of those numbers in the authority control records are duplicated in other places in the MARC record for the authority control. Like the Library of Congress numbers also is automatically duplicated in the 010. But others are duplicated in like the 016 and the 024. And the issue with matching rules on those is that the 016 and the 024 aren't indexed by koha automatically. You have to add those to the index if you're on Elasticsearch so that you can match on those. And that's the issue we're having, is trying to get those mapped before we do our final part of this authority control project, is to make sure that if we bring in updates to those records, we can match on them. It'd be nice to be able to do that, instead of just creating duplicates. So.
All right, I've got
I
one. I'll
have
throw
to
out
say,
here.
adding a new field or a new indexed field in with Elasticsearch is really easy.
It's even easier for me because I just have to tell Bywater what I want indexed. I don't have to actually index it myself.
I threw another bug out there, 32985, and this one has to do with an inconsistency. It's if you do a patron quick search done on a card number. Here's the thing: you have this field. I think it's called in default patron search fields. If you do not include card number as one of the search criteria, when you do a patron search by card number, it works. But if you're doing a search for a patron card number, like as a patron guarantor, it does not work, which is really weird. I opened up this discussion and it's interesting how discussions go in the conversation, because people say, well, it works if you put it in there, it'll work. And I'm like, okay, great, but nowhere does it explain to you, okay, you don't have to have it in there and it'll work for general searching. But if you're doing guarantor searches by card number, it's not going to work. There's nothing to indicate that. It's not documented anywhere. And so I'm scratching my head trying to figure this stuff out. And so I'm basically saying, okay, we just need some consistency. Either it works whether it's listed there or not, and it's mentioned that it'll work regardless of it being listed in that field, or it doesn't work. It shouldn't work consistently. If you take it out, you shouldn't be able to search by that anywhere. It just needs to work the same everywhere, rather than it works in one place and not the other, which is the conversation I had. And then I had somebody write back on that. And I'm not trying to be a troublemaker, but I do give a little bit of pushback in these conversations, because it's weird how some of these things are brought up in these conversations. Is like, why did you go there? Somebody created a patch and they said this patch should fix the problem you're describing, but not sure it's something we want. This behavior has been around for years. And it's like, okay, if you don't want it, why did you provide it? And, you know, if that's, you know, I gave options as to, you know, two different directions we could go with it. You know, if you don't like that, why did you give it? It was just a little odd to me, but, you know, I'm not trying to complain about it. It's just like, you know, provide the patch, and, you know, do you not see the benefit of keeping something consistent one way or the other within the product, rather than having it act differently in different places? So I apologize to everybody in the community if I seem a little snarky in my response to that, but you know, I'm just trying to understand people's mindsets in going forward. I'm not trying to dictate in any way how koha should work, but it does seem to make sense that, you know, if you're going to say, you know, this field works for searching, it should work everywhere, or it shouldn't work at all. So, you know, it's just kind of goofy to me. I welcome people to join in the conversation, but I'm trying to get us in a place, and he's got this patch, so we'll see if it works and sign off on it. But it's just funny how some of these conversations can go on these topics. Who else? Has anybody played with the new version of koha yet? We've got it on our test server. I just started looking at it.
The thing I noticed immediately, because they move all the different like options for checkout, check-in, renew to the right side, I am used to clicking below. So I have to adjust. I just can't. I've been doing that for years, and my body doesn't want to look to the right side for that spot.
And the homepage looks a lot different.
Yeah.
I
Bob's
think maybe
problem.
a little better.
Bob's problem
organized.
was mentioned. Bob's problem was mentioned by everybody that I've shown the new interface to. Is like all of that stuff that used to be here is over here, and it's weird to.
We'll all adjust in a matter of weeks,
Days, probably.
Yeah.
days, if not days. So it's just that was the first thing I noticed is I kept on clicking on blank space.
Yeah, it's kind of odd, you know, because everything has been made a little bit smaller on the page. It's good for fitting things in, you know, in tighter screen spaces, but you know, if you've got fat fingers, if you're working on a device like a phone or whatever, you got fat fingers, it might make it a little bit more challenging. But the challenge for me is, you know, I want to go back to the home page. Man, it's a smaller place to click on. And it's like, okay, where am I clicking at? You know, it makes me hesitate a lot now. I'm stuttering in my workflow. And you have to get used to the fact that the cataloging tools are now on the cataloging page. So yeah, that's a huge shift for koha.
Does make more sense, but like most things, it's going to take a while to get used to.
Well, it's interesting that they moved the cataloging tools, but they didn't move the circulation tools.
Not yet.
Baby steps.
But the circulation page does have, well, it has more going on it. And we add quite a bit to our circulation page. So that's going to be an interesting shift when that does happen.
I haven't used it yet, but we've been using for years the hacky version of using koha to add extra pages to the OPAC. You can create a page. You have to go into the back end of koha and set up some things, but then you can create a system preference where you can fill the little system preference box full of HTML, and it will create a separate new web page on the OPAC. And that feature has been implemented fully into koha now, where there's like the news features, you can go in and create whole pages not just for the staff client, but not just for the OPAC, but also for the staff client now. And so that I can see as a way of, creating a page. Like right now I have all my statistics on the homepage in Koha on a tab. And this way I could just create a page that's just for the statistics stuff. And they can be isolated on a branch by branch basis. So I can have pages that, are only visible to staff at one library or another. And that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that is the pretty much only reason I upgraded the author's catalog to 2011, so I could have the additional tab. It is really easy to create. Just go into news, click, there you are, and it's on the OPAC page, just a separate tab.
Yeah, it would a natural progression for this. It would be great if sometime down the road you could define who can edit what pages, because it would be nice to be able to say, okay, well, here's a page for this library, and they can, put it whatever they want on it and maintain that page and update it as needed. And because I can see in the future, if you have like a consortium, we maintain a separate consortium webpage, but it might be nice to just put all that together and have pages for each of the branches that you maintain there, rather than on a completely different site. So, there's some possibility down the road if they give that ability for individuals to or groups to edit. Any other comments or thoughts about 2211?
Another big feature they added was curbside pickup. Used to be a plugin. It's a native feature now. I haven't looked at it much, but we might get more use out of it now that it's built in and more polished.
Nice.
I just put a link to the Monday minutes that Kelly and Jesse did about the web pages into the chat box.
Yeah, that was well done. Some good information there. We've got one more minute. Anybody want to suck up that last minute? I will throw one thing out real quick before we wrap up then. Let's see here. I think this is the one. Let's make sure. Yes. Okay. Something that I'm pushing for. We've made a lot of progress with passwords. This is a next good step with passwords. To be able to force a password change for new patrons. Right now, when patrons sign up for an account online, if they do a self-registration, they can create their password right off the bat. If you do it in person, we're giving them a default password unless you have some mechanism in place for them to be able to type in their password. You're doing it for them. You're giving them some sort of default, or a staff member knows it if they're telling you what password to use, or something not completely kosher. It would be good if we could have those passwords expire right away, and when they log in for the first time, it asks them to update their password. Don't have that mechanism right now. I tried forcing the system to do that. I was going to go in there and use some jQuery and say, well, when you're creating a new account, just make the expiration for the password default to today. But the password expiration date is not available on an add new patron form, which is really odd. So I can't even hack it right now. So if we were to try and do something like that, we'd have to create the patron, then go back into the patron and edit that date and set it to to today in order to have that functionality. So it would be nice to have something like that, in my opinion. If you have opinions on that, please comment on the bug.
Sorry, I just had to tell someone, no, this isn't the Uzbek embassy. Drop by 1 digit.
All right, well, we've reached 9:31 and it is time to wrap up. And I've got another meeting starting here for the conference committee. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's great to have you here. And if you're sticking around for that committee, we'll be starting in just a few minutes. So thanks everyone for coming. We'll see you next month.
See you later. Christopher, I'm jumping onto another computer and I'll be there in a minute.
All right.